be who you're meant to be, because everybody has gifts and talents they're meant to share with the world. The question is whether you're bold enough or courageous enough to share them with the world. And it is uncomfortable. And that leads to the second thing I tell people. Don't be afraid to do the uncomfortable work. If you're wanting to get to another station in life, it is uncomfortable and it takes uncomfortable work. But the reason why there's less and less people the higher you go up the ladder is because most people don't want to do the uncomfortable work. It's uncomfortable.
Welcome to the Mountain Tough Podcast, brought to you by Sig Sauer. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mountain Tough Podcast. I am Dustin Defender, for host and CEO of Mountain Tough. We are so glad that you are here. We love seeing you dive into these episodes week after week, guest after guest, and it is always our goal to bring you an inspiring guest each and every time to help you add tools to that mindset toolbox to build that mental fitness so that you're ready for anything, so that you're living that abundant life and you are staying dangerous. If you are a new or a loyal listener, and if you have not done so already, if you have a second to leave a ranking or review on the podcast store of your choice, those do mean the world to us. We love seeing your feedback and recommendations come through, and through the algorithm. By leaving a ranking or review, it does allow these shows to get out to more people to transform more lives. Also, if you are new to the Mountain Tough show, make sure that you are aware of the podcast exclusive code. This code gets you 6 weeks free on Mountain Tough Plus, so 6 weeks free on the app. All you need to do is check out with the code MOUNTAINPOD. That's all caps, all one word, MTNPOD. That's going to get you 6 weeks free of Mountain Tough training. That's all of our physical programming, all of our mental programming, all of our nutritional programming. It's going to be in the app, streaming across iPhone, iOS, all streaming platforms. But that code MOUNTAINPOD gets you that 6 weeks for free. Just do that on mountaintough.com. Now, transitioning over to today's guest. This was a big episode, and there is a tremendous amount of golden nuggets in this one. On the show today, we have Sheriff Mark Lamb. Sheriff Mark Lamb is a dedicated public servant and family man who has served as the sheriff of Pinal County since 2017. He is known for his steadfast commitment to combating criminal cartels at the southern border. Sheriff Lamb has taken a strong stand against the influx of fentanyl and human trafficking. He gained national recognition in 2020 for opposing COVID lockdowns, mask mandates, and vaccine requirements, advocating for the freedoms of his community and the importance of local business and education. This earned him the moniker America's Sheriff. So stand by for my conversation with Mark Lamb. I did want to start with just a recap of your career, because I know it has been a long one in law enforcement around the border, and I know that it could take quite a while to articulate everything you've done down there. But for our listeners, just for some background, can you do a brief synopsis of how that has gone for you?
Yeah, look, I'm born and raised in Hawaii. My family was pioneers of Arizona, but I was born and raised in Hawaii. My dad was a businessman, and we moved to the Philippines when I was 11. And then we moved back to Arizona, and I went to high school in Arizona. While I was in high school, we moved to Panama, and then I went to Argentina on a mission. And the reason why I bring all those up is because really, I think living in other countries, I wish more Americans had the opportunity to go other places and really see just how special America is. Because when you actually see how the rest of the world is, you realize we live in an amazing country. Mm-hmm. The problem is most Americans don't realize it. And because they've spent no time in true poverty or places where they have no freedom or all that. So was fortunate enough to be raised in places where you really got a good appreciation of America. And I followed in my dad's footsteps. I was a businessman, but I never thought about being a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Never crossed my mind. I was just an American patriot. Felt like I missed my opportunity to join the military, which is what I really wanted to do. But it was early 90s and not much was going on. And next thing you know, I was married with 5 kids. And when 9/11 happened, I thought, well, I'm going to try to get into do something now. I feel this patriotism calling me. But I was 30 years old with 5 kids, and it was just too hard to make that work.
Tough,
financially and leaving my kids. And so kind of just kept moving on, had, some failures in business and tried to pick up the pieces. And one day, one of my neighbors, when I was 33 years old, asked me if I wanted to do a ride along. And this was on an Indian reservation, and went on that ride along. And I remember there was a call for service, and I've told this story on other podcasts, but I in case nobody's ever heard it or doesn't know me, we got this call, and it was a dad who had found a 20-year-old with his 14-year-old daughter.
Jeez.
And they got into a scuffle. The guy runs out the back. And on the reservation, if you're not from out here in the West, we have these big reservations. And behind the reservation on the house, and then maybe nothing behind it, just desert, and then maybe an old abandoned travel trailer. Mm-hmm. Well, that's how this property was. And I'm out there armed with a flashlight and courage is all I had out there, walking around with these guys. And I see this old travel trailer, and I look in through the window, and I see what I think is amongst all this trash and clothes and debris, I see what I think is a quarter size of skin.
Oh man!
And so I'm like, I think this guy's right. And they, sure enough, they go in there, they pull all the stuff, and he's there. They roust him out, they rough him up, tase him, put him in cuffs. I went home that morning and woke my wife up, and I said, "Honey, I'm going to be a cop."
Oh, just and,
6 months later, I was in the academy. But that's kind of how I live my life. Is if I see something that I think I need to do or want to do, I go after it. Mm-hmm. And so I went after it and was fortunate enough to get hired and started my career on the Indian reservation, and I was fortunate because I was already married. I was 34. I had 5 kids. My mindset of where I wanted to be in life and the station I was in life was very different from the young guys. Mm-hmm. And so I took every opportunity every shift, everything I could do to be a master of my craft. And I knew that the only way to achieve that was with time. And the way I had to circumvent that was spend more time on the road. So I would take all these extra shifts, but I didn't take the shifts where you sat on traffic details. I took those shifts where you were actually in the community dealing with the gangsters. And within 2 years, I became a gang and drug detective. And then I'm fast forwarding it so you can get to your next question. But that's ultimately helpful. What I saw in this profession was a real lack of strong leadership and courage. There's courageous cops, but I saw a lot of the leaders weren't willing to stand up for us or for what was right. And so I thought, I need to be part of this solution. And the other thing was I didn't like the direction of the country. I thought that they were undermining the rule of law. And so instead of just complaining about it, I decided to run for sheriff. And fast forward, fortunate enough, I was fortunate enough to win in 2016, took office in 2017. And so I've been the sheriff now in Pinal County for 8 years. And I love it. I mean, we deal with the border stuff, and I know we're going to get into that, but that's a quick overview of my life. And I know we can fill in some of the details if you want, but been blessed to be in this career. It wasn't a career that I thought I would end up in when I was younger or even as an adult. Yeah. But life has a way of putting you where you're supposed to be. And I have no question this was what I was called to do. So
that's amazing. And it's amazing that happened that night. You did the ride along. It could have been a completely different night with not much going on, which may have led to a completely different trajectory of your life. But the fact that happened that night on that reservation is wild.
And you bring up a good point. And what I like the way you brought it out. It is so true that happened that way for that night for a reason. Mm-hmm. And I think most people tune out what life is trying to guide them towards, or because it's inconvenient, or because they're afraid to take the risks. Life is trying to guide you where you need to be. And a lot of people either miss those. They're not even subtle road signs sometimes. Sometimes they're glaring right in your face. And and people miss them. But I was fortunate to go that night, and I saw the road signs, and I wasn't afraid to turn and take that path. And I think about all the things I've been able to accomplish in my career, the lives I've impacted, all those things started with that one night, that one call. Had I not had that one call, I might have been bored to death and might have went home and said, this is dumb. I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
But it was the opposite. And it immediately, it engaged me, and I did it.
It's awesome because we talk a lot about, with mindset and mental toughness, one of the key characteristics for sure is this ability and this tendency to burn the ships. And a lot of guys are scared to do that and don't do that. And that leads to the opposite of the abundant life. It usually leads to a lot of depression, anxiety, these feelings of being in the wrong spot, not having a purpose or a mission. But so much of getting on that right trajectory is being obedient to these signs. And by being obedient, you start having not an easy life at all, which you can testify to, but a joyful, purpose-filled life.
Which is the purpose of our existence here. We're one of a kind, for one. You know, I tell people three things, and I usually bring this up at the end, but I always tell people, and I tell kids, number one is be authentic. There's nobody in this world like you. There's nobody with the same fingerprints, same DNA, same irises. Nobody. You are a one of a kind. If that doesn't tell you about the godliness of your existence here in this earth, I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. So be authentic, be who you're meant to be, because everybody has gifts and talents they're meant to share with the world. The question is whether you're bold enough or courageous enough to share them with the world. And it is uncomfortable. And that leads to the second thing I tell people. Don't be afraid to do the uncomfortable work. If you're wanting to get to another station in life, it is uncomfortable. And it takes uncomfortable work. But the reason why there's less and less people the higher you go up the ladder is because most people don't want to do the uncomfortable work. Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So being willing to do the uncomfortable work. And the last thing is really what you just hit on. And this has kind of been my mantra throughout life is surrender the outcome. Look, you can't control the outcome of life no matter what. So the people who are unhappy or angry or frustrated or depressed, it's because they're trying to control an outcome in the world that they'd have no control over.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to do nothing and sit in your house or sit in a cubicle for 20, 30 years, guess what? You still have no control over the outcome of your life. So you may as well burn the boats and have a hell of a time here on earth and take chances and try to become that person that everybody is destined to be. Mm-hmm. Some people have the courage to do it. And some people choose to shrink as if they can control the outcome that way. But the reality is, whether you choose a boring life or whether you choose to take risks and chances, either way, you don't control the outcome.
Yeah.
And so my philosophy is, hell with it. I may as well go for it because I can't control the outcome anyway. Yeah. At least, like I always say, I'd rather live one day as a lion than 1,000 years as a sheep.
For sure.
Which, no pun intended, because I'm a lamb, but what?
Hey guys, there are a lot of trends out there. And one trend that I've personally found in my own life through experience that has been a game changer is cold plunging and cold water therapy. The benefits for me have been off the charts when it comes to two main categories. The physical inflammation reduction from cold plunging every day has been a complete game changer, but my favorite part of cold water therapy has been the mental aspect, the mental clarity, the stress reduction, and most importantly, the ability to build mental toughness every day in a very simple way by just forcing myself to get in that cold water has been a drastic improvement that is easy, fast, and efficient. I've tried countless different ways to access cold water therapy, from the redneck version horse troughs to building my own cold plunge system off Amazon parts and pieces. Every time I've tried that, it has been a disaster until we found Ice Barrel. Ice Barrel is the most advanced barrel design on the market, and they have the most advanced high-tech chiller on the market as well. I've met the CEO, I've worked out with the CEO, we've had them at the lab. They're a great team, American-made manufacturing, and we're proud to announce that you can now access a discount on Ice Barrel products. All you need to do as a podcast listener is use the code MOUNTAINTOUGH. That's going to get you 15% off all Ice Barrels except the chiller. Again, that's Mountain Tough, all caps, all one word on icebarrel.com. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough podcast. Well, in one of the well-documented studies of people in hospice is the number one reason that they have the most regret is living a life for others, not for themselves. So they're living not their authentic life. They did not live their authentic life. And so they're laying on their deathbed thinking that I knew all these things I should have chased and pursued the last 40, 50, 60, 70 years, but I didn't do it. I just did what everyone else was doing or what society was doing, what my friends were doing, what the community was doing. And then they're just on their deathbed full of regret. I mean, that's the number one documented reason.
And I believe it. And I choose not to do that. I don't want to get to my deathbed. And honestly, I could die today knowing that I burnt boats many times, and I've had failures and successes. I've had, tragedy, and I've had triumph, and I've had it all, and I wouldn't change a thing. Mm-hmm. I've 100%. I'm trying to take advantage of this life and push myself to find out what I'm capable of. And because I'm willing to do that, I've seen one success after another. And you can see it clearly laying out in front of you if you learn to open your eyes and not let your own thoughts and your own fears blind you to the path that is being laid out in front of you. And that's really what happens is people, they turn off their eyes, they shut off their ears, and they don't want to see what's ahead because they're scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you get better at following it the more you do it.
Yeah.
Well, let's move forward.
I talk about in my book just to prove that, there's a necessity that we all have that you've got to eat, you got to drink, and I talk about fear is not a bad thing necessarily. I always say that you don't want to be fearful. You want to learn how to manage and control fear. That's the key. And if you look at, I use an example in my book of if you watch these nature shows, these deer or these antelope will walk down to the water, which they know is full of crocodiles and other predators.
Yeah.
But there's a necessity. They have to drink. And so they go down, and if you watch their body, they are afraid. They're managing that fear. And what it does is because they've learned to manage it, it gives them that extra advantage. They're ready to spring away from the water at the slightest threat of danger. Mm-hmm. They can go into action. They're not slothful about it. They go in, they drink, and if you see them, they spring out of there. Their muscles are tight. They're ready. And it's not that they weren't afraid to go down and drink. They took that. It was a managed and a controlled fear. Yeah. And they allowed that what naturally courses through our body to make us dangerous. Yeah. You have to learn how to manage and control that fear. And so don't be fearful, learn how to manage and control it.
I love that. Let's move forward to more current times in your career. What's the big cities around that county you are in Arizona?
So the biggest city is actually unincorporated, which is Santan Valley. It's 130,000 people. Okay. It's closest to like Gilbert, Chandler. We're in the East Valley of Phoenix, but we're between Phoenix and Tucson. So my county actually extends out to the west side of Phoenix as well, but I have an Indian reservation on there. Some of the other towns in our county are Apache Junction, Casa Grande, Maricopa, Florence. But we're basically a suburb of, on the top end of our county, a suburb of Phoenix, and on the bottom end of our county, a suburb of Tucson. And we're basically that last line of defense for anything that is being smuggled into this country, for people, drugs, which, by the way, over 50% of all fentanyl that comes into America is coming through Arizona's borders. So if it comes in through the southern border, at some point it's got to come through my county to get to Phoenix, which Phoenix has become like a de facto distribution hub. So they have to push through the I-10 or one of our other highways. So even though we're not the big metropolis, we're the third largest county population wise. We're the size of the state of Connecticut. But we are also strategically, we play a big role in being the last line of defense for stopping the human and the drug trafficking into America.
Man, crazy. So if someone smuggled across the border, they're a couple hours into their journey stateside by the time they hit your county. Yes,
that's right. And if we don't stop them, either they'll be under the control of the cartels, or we may have let somebody that was a criminal that the federal government didn't stop. Now they got past us. And then what we see is the crime that we're seeing throughout the rest of the country, which is, we talk about current affairs. I mean, I think that we're seeing we're seeing and feeling the effects of a broken border system. And we're also seeing they didn't just break the border. Part of that was to undermine the rule of law. We saw over the last 20 years, they've really done a number on police where they want to make us like we're the enemy or something. I was just telling somebody today, I don't think the average American has any understanding just what an important role police play, as much as you may or may not like them. We are the ones that keep the wolves from the herd. And I don't think people have any understanding of just how bad people can be. And if you took away that line, there would be sheer chaos in a matter of days.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of things that we never hear about that you guys are stopping 24/7.
Yep.
So you became sheriff of that county in 2016, correct?
So I won in 2016. I took office at the January 1st of 2017. So I've been in there now going on almost 8 years.
And how has those 8 years changed from when you started to what the county kind of experiences now from like a border security threat?
Fortunately, because we do good work, our men and women do good work. I get to take the credit for the good work that they do. And then in conjunction with the county attorney, we have actually reduced our crime index every year. When crime has been on the rise in other places, we're reducing our crime index. So people want to come live here. Plus, we've had somewhat of affordable housing up until just a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How it has changed, though, is there's always been a border problem. Like that's existed for decades. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's one administration's fault, but it has always been there. But it has changed significantly in the last 3.5 to 4 years. Under the previous administration, they worked with local law enforcement. We had a seat at the table. They listened to our voice, and because they did successfully, we were able to work successfully with the federal government to have one of the best years we'd ever seen in reducing human trafficking and drug trafficking in this country. That changed overnight on January 21st of 2021. As soon as this administration came in, it was completely different. And where it's changed is where it's predominantly been people from Mexico or Guatemala coming in. Now what we're seeing is people from all over the world. And we, the taxpayer, are funding it through these non-governmental organizations. Our taxpayers are going to them. They are then incentivizing people to come. Our government's own policies are incentivizing people to come. We're seeing a whole influx of millions of people that have come into this country illegally or making false asylum claims. And along with that comes the drugs. And along with that comes the cartels now building their power. Cartels have gone from making $500 million a year to $13 billion a year or more.
Unreal.
And they're not just at the southern end of this country. The cartels are in 54 different countries. So what our broken border has done is the only people that we've empowered, the only people that have been benefited from this has been the cartels. And it has been at the expense of the American people, and it has been at the expense and the lives and the raping of the women, the losing of children. It has been at that expense to the people that want to come into this country. They're doing it wrong, but our government's not doing a good job of telling them, don't do it this way. You should do it the legal way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not holding people accountable when they don't do it the right way. And so what this done is just created this broken system. And I think Americans are all seeing it. It used to be like, oh, I'm sorry, that sucks for Arizona, or that sucks for Texas. Well, that's not the case anymore.
It's everywhere.
It's in Ohio, it's in Chicago, it's in New York, it's in Alabama, it's in Florida, it's in Iowa, it's everywhere. Kansas, it's all 50 states are suffering from it.
I've used a ton of Bluetooth speakers over the years, and they all have never quite had enough output for me to really have an awesome home gym workout on a Bluetooth speaker. But the Turtle Box is in a whole new ball game. They have leveled up this product, so the bass and the output you get out of a Turtle Box is quite amazing. It's funny how we started using them at the lab. We had an awesome sound system at our new lab here in Bozeman. We were using it so much, we actually blew our brand new system out. We went right to the Turtle Boxes. And so we paired two together in the lab. And that was a lot of output for the Mountain Tough team and all of our testing to have phenomenal sound in our gym for a great workout with great music. We know there's a ton of Mountain Toughers training in their basements, in their garages, and I know a lot of you are looking for great sound to play some music in the background to your MGDs. This is a great product for you to check out. Turtle Box is at a whole new level. The bass and the volume you can get out of that box. It's a sweet product. You guys can check them out at turtleboxaudio.com. Use promo code TOUGH for a free Turtlebox hat with the purchase of a Gen 2 speaker. The hat must be added to your cart before entering the promo code TOUGH, TOUGH. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough Podcast. And are you a believer with your experience of the 10% rule theory when it comes to illegal immigration, where I've heard it stated from the aspect of if 200,000 people cross, 90% of them are not criminals, but 10% of them may have a criminal tendency or leaning. So if 200,000 are coming across, you have 20,000 criminals that you're trying to deal with. But then when that number inflates to 10 million, that 10% rule is still in somewhat of an effect.
I got to be honest with you. I think the number's higher than 10%. And just let me tell you, by just the sheer numbers, they arrest typically between 20 and 40,000 people who have had criminal histories or current warrants for arrest, convictions of people that were here in our country that got convicted or are wanted for crimes. They're apprehending 20 to 40,000. There's your 10% to 40% or 20% right there. Mm-hmm. And then what we've done is now we've got all these Venezuelan gangsters. Don't think that other countries don't see that we're broken and that we're not, they are taking advantage of us, and they're sending a lot of people to the country that are not good people. And the other problem is even though you may be a good person, you broke the law coming in here illegally. By definition, it makes you a criminal because you broke the law. They may be good people, but we have good people every day that we have to arrest that are American citizens that make a mistake. Mm-hmm. These guys made a conscientious effort to break our laws to come into this country. And I think that we as a society, we try to excuse that away under humanity or whatever. I can live with it because there is a legal process in place for these people to come here. I'm all for it. Mm-hmm. But the only way we have a functioning country is if we make people do it the right way and the legal way. We can't just give everybody asylum claims, and we can't just let people in this country illegally and then not hold them accountable and then give them not only are we giving them a pass into the country, we're giving them gift cards and cell phones and plane tickets and hotel rooms. Meanwhile, we have Americans that are struggling every day. So, yeah, look, I can't just, there are good people that are coming here.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is I think that number is larger for people that is coming in here. They may not be, it's not 100%, but it might be 20, 30, 40%, I think now that we're not getting the best of the best.
Yeah.
And even those good people, they were third world. They were living in as poor people in a poor country. What really do they bring to our country? And you have to ask yourself. People don't like to hear that, but that's the reality of where we're at. Is ask yourself, what value do they bring to our country? We should always be looking to see what value somebody brings to our country. We're not paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're increasing the poverty amount of people in this country that are going to be poor. And while we're doing that, we're also eliminating the American dream to where those people probably will never have a chance to get out from underneath it, because we're crushing the middle class. We're crushing American ingenuity. We're doing at the expense of the American people, and frankly, at the expense of these other people that they don't have the skill set in many cases. They don't have the education, and they don't even oftentimes speak our language. And you're thrust a poor person into another country. It's not a good recipe.
Not a good recipe, especially when you probably add that layer of cartel control to where they're crossing for a better life. But with that cartel control, the reality of a better life is probably not accurate at all.
And the cartel is involved with 99.999% of everybody who comes across. Whether those people wanted to be involved with the cartels or not, the cartels are involved with all of it. They're abusing children and raping children, and they're getting them into this country and then putting them in the hard labor and the sex trade. And our government can't even tell you where 300,000 plus of them are. They're raping women when they come across. They're extorting men. They're hurting American families. Like, folks, there is nothing good about what's going on. And trust me, people will say, well, the humanity of it. Well, guess what? I don't see any of those politicians or any of those people on the East Coast down here with us bandaging people's feet, giving people, aid when they're about to die because the cartels have left them for dead, or watching them spend their life savings only to have the cartels take it from them and treat them as if, a commodity. I mean, there is nothing humane about what's going on at the southern border, folks. And the only humanity that is the light in this is us in law enforcement, the ones who are actually trying to protect not just Americans, but we're trying to protect these people and we're trying to protect American families from fentanyl poisonings and methamphetamines and all these other things. And that's the real humanity. If you are a person who believes in humanity, then you must be a person that believes in rules and in order to be able to protect everybody on that spectrum.
Yeah, protecting the oppressed. How can it be possible that the cartel is controlling 99.9%? How does that work?
Well, they got people all along that cartel. You don't show up in those towns and I think these people intend on coming in on their own. And they might get to one of these, northern Mexico towns. They don't, and they find out very quickly you have to pay the cartels. The cartels are down in the Darien Gap in Panama. They're all throughout that travel to make sure that the cartels are capturing everybody that's coming across. They put wristbands on them to show that they've paid. If you come across and they find out you didn't pay, they'll snatch you back up and take you back across and make you pay.
Crazy.
Or they'll kill you, or a whole myriad of things. And even if you didn't want to pay, if you thought you could get across on your own, I say 99.9 because there are guys that have crossed before and they know sometimes they're successful in circumventing the cartels, but the average person coming from all these other countries, they're paying cartels.
Mhm.
Cartels are intimately involved in getting people across the border, whether they want it or not. They're going to make sure they get their money for it.
Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food, and they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code MOUNTAINTOUGH, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough Podcast. What about I'm particularly interested in some of the reservation stuff as well, from, being from Montana, born and raised up here. I grew up outside of the Crow Reservation, and then certainly we have the big Blackfoot Reservation for us up on the Canadian border, the Flathead Reservation. So for Montanans, we are quite used to seeing and experiencing and being around reservations. But I definitely have heard the conversation more recently in Montana about, cartels and betting inside of there and kind of taking over some of those. Is that also what you're seeing in Arizona?
Absolutely. The reservation on the south end of my county, we go in about 20 miles into that reservation, and then it's in another county, but that county has no jurisdiction there because it's a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And that reservation actually goes into Mexico. It's on both sides. So if you're a community member, you can walk across from Mexico to the United States, no problem, on that reservation. And so they'll never put a wall. There is not a single foot of wall on that reservation, nor will they ever put a wall. Mm-hmm. So what it's done is it creates, and look, I don't blame them. I'm not here telling you that, I'm a respecter of the Native American. I think I love their cultures. I enjoyed working on the reservation. I do believe if you want to see what the future of America looks like under socialism, drive out to an Indian reservation, drive around and spend a day out there and tell me if you think that it works. The best view of socialism here in America is on an Indian reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter which state you go to. That's how they're designed. And nobody really owns property. The tribe owns it all. They can take your business if you're not a tribal member. I mean, it is the definition of really what socialism would look like. But
Yeah.
I digress. Back to, they have absolutely integrated themselves. They will send cartel members across to hook up with the native ladies so that they can have connections. Not to mention, a lot of those folks live in very remote areas. So the idea of getting several $1,000s from the cartels to drive somebody from the border up to the county line where I'm at,
Yeah.
where the reservation ends, that's no big deal. That's, how do you turn that money down for them? So we see a lot of involvement in the cartels on the reservations because they know that guys like me don't have jurisdiction. And the Border Patrol is so busy dealing with just processing people at the ports that they're not out there either. And so basically what they have is free reign through these reservations, whether it's on the northern border or on the southern border, anywhere where there's a Native American reservation. The cartels love those areas to push, especially high profile or people that wouldn't be able to come across the border or claim asylum. They will push them through those, through the desert areas, through the reservations. And we see it all the time.
Yeah. Cause you can't go on there and arrest anyone, even if you knew they were there.
We'd have to have one of the feds with us.
Yeah.
Like even when we fly our helicopter, when we see a group and we're on the reservation, we have to drop off the Border Patrol guy, and then we go back up and we just hover around until somebody shows up, and we just do kind of overwatch for the Border Patrol guy, or we guide people in. But yeah, unless it's an absolute emergency, we just don't have the authority there. We have a very good relationship with the tribe. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we work together. We're working together on projects all the time. But it's still a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
And we only work when invited.
Mm-hmm.
Or with Border Patrol.
Let's take the conversation as optimistic as we can from the perspective of, there's a lot of bad out there, and we've talked about quite a bit of it here, and it can be pretty overwhelming. And you and I started our conversation at the very beginning around, like, we have to have these glimmers of hope. We have to have this, we have to get out of hopelessness and understand that, like, we are the change. We can make this change. And I've been excited to hear that aspect from you. With 5 kids, I have kids. These kids are going to be the future leaders of our country. And hearing some of this stuff sometimes around the border can take us down some pretty pessimistic trails. But what are you feeling now? What are you seeing now? What are you thinking now in terms of, it seems like America has a pretty big black eye around what has happened on the border. How are you feeling lately around the tide turning and us kind of revitalizing America from a safety and security standpoint?
Well, look, I don't know when you're going to release this, but this election will play a big role in that. And I have media come out all the time, and the media says, well, I tell them the statistics, and they say, what drives your guys to go out and work every day? And I said, what do you want us to do? Raise the white flag? We're not going to raise the white flag. Mm-hmm. I'm glad they didn't raise the white flag at the Alamo. I'm glad that the founding fathers, in every battle that they were struggling with and not winning, I mean, it wasn't looking good. If you're a student of history, it did not go well for us in the Revolutionary War in most cases. Mm-hmm. We just were blessed to win some very crucial and key battles along the way because certain men had the courage to lead other men that wanted freedom. Had they not, most of those wars and those armies would have been nothing without 1 or 2 men that were willing to stand in the front and go, hey, we can do this, guys. We can win. I love the Sean Ryan podcast, and he had Eric Prince on there recently, and I love the founding father stories. And often told this story, and I want to make sure I give him credit because I heard him tell it too.
Yeah.
The story of Samuel Whittemore. Look, the English were dominant in this country, and they were dominating most of the skirmishes and the battles that were going on. And this man, Samuel Whittemore, was a veteran of the French and English War. And so he had been battling for a long time. Now this guy's 78 years old, and obviously, an old lion. And he heard that the English were marching on Concord. Well, he went home and grabbed his musket, and he grabbed his 2 pistols and loaded them. And he grabbed his sword that he took off the Frenchmen during those battles. And he went out and headed towards where the English were. Luckily, the Americans were able to rebuff the English that time. And so the English were then on their way back from Concord when Samuel Whittemore, who was hiding behind a wall, as the English got close enough, he pulls up his rifle and boom, fires a shot, kills one of the English. Then he pops up with his pistols and boom, boom, shoots 2 more of the English. And then he pulls his sword, ready to battle. This was one man taking on an entire English regiment.
78.
And they had enough of it. They shot him in the face. Then they ran up on him and they hit him with the butts of their rifles and they stabbed him with their bayonets at least 6 or 7 times. And when the English marched off, they left Samuel Whittemore, a 70-year-old man, lying in a puddle of his own blood. About an hour later, the Americans came across Samuel Whittemore lying in his own blood. And you know what he was doing? He was loading his pistols. That's the kind of warrior he was.
Man.
He was 78 years old. That man ended up living another 18 years beyond that and died at the old age of 96 years old. So somebody may have said, why in the world, Samuel, would you get out there in front of all that English regiment knowing that you were going to die?
Yeah.
Because he's a patriot. Mm-hmm. Because it was worth it. Because freedom was worth it. The country was worth it. And even if he wasn't going to win, if all of us have the mentality like, well, we can't win, we should just do nothing, then yes, we're going to lose. But as long as there's somebody that's willing to stand up, I ask people when I go around and speak, I say, how many people stood in front of the tanks in Tiananmen Square? One guy.
Yeah.
One guy stood in front of the tanks in Tiananmen Square, and he changed a dynasty. I think Americans forget the power of courage and the power of somebody who loves freedom enough to stand up and say, no, not on my watch. Mm-hmm. And that's how we feel. No, not on my watch. There's a book by Rollo May, Man's Search for Himself. I don't know if it's a great book, but I love this quote.
Yeah.
He says, the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice. It's conformity. And we've been conformists in this country. And if you continue to conform what the politicians and the media are telling you, or telling you that there is no hope, or that we can't fix this, or this is the way it needs to be now, no, that doesn't. You need to don't be a conformist. Have courage. Stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for principles. Stand up for what's right. And that's how we believe. Mm-hmm. And so whether this is going to go our way or get worse, I don't know. I have my ideas.
Yeah.
But I'll be damned if I'm going to stand by and do nothing. Mm-hmm. And I hope that other people will stand up and do something about it. It starts with voting. It starts with being active in your communities. You can no longer say, well, I don't do politics. Well, guess what? Politics is doing you. So you may as well get involved, because one way or the other, you're in politics, whether you want to be in or not.
Yeah.
Because this is what this country has become. And the only way we take it back is we, the people. And we need people that are courageous enough to say, you know what? I may not win this battle, but I'm going to fight it.
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. Listening to the Mountain Tough podcast. Do not conform. Yeah, stand up for what you believe in. What do you generally tell men, fathers, husbands out there that are not in law enforcement, not in the military, outside of voting? What do you usually articulate to those guys?
Kind of goes back to what I said before. They want you to be frustrated. They want you to be upset and angry, because anybody who knows anything about fighting, and if you don't, or if you've played sports, the best way to win is to get your opponent off their game plan, off of their game. Get them angry, get them frustrated, and then they get off their game, and then they tend to fall apart. That's what's happening to us. I often tell people that are not in law enforcement or military, I said, do you guys know what a flashbang is? And if you don't, a flashbang is a little canister. It's like a grenade, but there's no shrapnel, and it's a percussion. So it's designed to take away it's a bright light, loud noise, and there's percussion. So it's designed to take away your vision temporarily, your audio faculties, your hearing, and it's designed to discombobulate your brain a little bit. We have, as a country, have been flashbanged. Mm-hmm. And unless we get our wits about ourselves, they're going to overtake us. But here's the thing. You can't win one person you can't change everything. You can't change the world. So it goes back to what I was saying, is surrender the outcome. Control what you can control. If you're a father, control what your own household is. Make sure that you're teaching your children well. Make sure that you're living like a leader, a man. Make sure that you're teaching correct principles. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, maybe you have some span of control within your workforce. For me, I have control within my county. Whatever your control is, can control what you can control. The rest of it is outside of your control. Mm-hmm. Run your route, block your blocker, do what you got to do, hit the hole, trust that everybody else is going to do their part. They all won't, but you can't do their job too. You can't. So control what you can control. Don't let them frustrate you. Don't let them get you off your game. Stay focused on what you can do. And for those who, it may be donating to politics. It may be running for office. For some of you, don't run for office. You shouldn't. For some of you, it could be passing out flyers. For some of you, it could be, getting in, changing career, getting in something that has maybe more purpose. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You have to figure out what it is that you can do, but don't try to do everything because you can't. Yeah. And so control what you can control And I think that's the way we do this, is we cannot let them achieve what they're trying, which is to make us frustrated and angry and pit us against each other and divide us on all these issues. They win if we do that. So control what you can control.
Yeah, that mindset, such a key to everything in life, and not worrying about the stuff outside of your control. Game changer.
And look, you can worry, but don't let it change you or consume you or keep you from doing what you should be doing. I'm worried about this country. I am. I'm worried because we're so divided. You know, Abraham Lincoln, when he gave a speech when the Civil War was about to pop off, Abraham Lincoln said, they were talking about the division of the country. And he said, look, I don't think that the Union will, I don't think that the Republic will be dissolved, nor do I think the Union will fail. However, it cannot continue divided. Either it will go one way or it will go the other. And I promise you, folks, you don't want it to go the other way. We've got to bring it back to what this country was built on, the Republic values, the love of freedom, less government, more freedom. And that's really what it is. But the only people that can do that is we, the people. I mean, people look to me, people like myself as a sheriff, and they want me to do all these things. And I'm like, look, the power is really amongst the people. I'm here to tell you, like, there is no more power. Our founding fathers told us that's where the power is in this country. We, the people.
Yeah, that's where you have the massives that can shift a tide in the right direction or a negative direction. That's right. When did you make this decision towards Senate?
You know, I was kind of kicking it around. One of the things that really pushed me towards it is I was looking at what can I do? The federal government clearly it's got to be violating a state law. So then I go and I look at all the state laws and I find one, ARS 132323, participating in or assisting a human smuggling organization. And one of those says intentionally, blah, 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 or omission by a public servant in his official public servant duties. So I take it to the county attorney and I'm like, look, I think this is Mayorkas. I don't know how we're doing on time. I said, I think this is Mayorkas. And so ultimately he says, you know, you might be onto something. So we put this case together about how he was aiding or he was assisting and participating in human smuggling, and we laid it all out. But in the end, when we went back to talk about going to the grand jury, in the end, because of the supremacy clause of the Constitution and because of case law, the county attorney just didn't feel good about taking that case all the way. And so he's a good man and he's a great county attorney and he's very thoughtful and we try to follow the Constitution. And that was kind of what really started making me think, you know what? A lot of these problems need to be fixed at the federal government. But I had a son who had a drug problem and he had gone down and I don't know, we don't have time to go over all of it, but he ended up, during his problems, he ended up hitting a guy on a bike and ended up getting charged and ultimately spends 6 months in my jail.
Crazy.
6 months in my own jail. You want to know how you treat your prisoners? Put your own son in your own jail.
Wild.
But we believe in being held accountable. You know, look, we believe that if you make mistakes, you have to pay for those mistakes in this household. And he did. But by the time he goes to jail, his life was clean. He had been clean for over a year. And he gets out of jail and I say to him, I said, look, I'm considering running for Senate. But if I do, they're going to drag all that front page stuff about me and my son. They're going to drag it back up to the surface and they're going to hammer you and I. And he said, you know, look, Dad, I understand. I don't want to be here. I'm going to move. I don't want to be part of it. But I understand you needing to do it. Well, 2 months later, on December 16th of 2022, my son left for work. He had an 11-month-old daughter. His fiance, they leave to go pick him up for work. They don't come home. 8:30 at night, my wife and I had been doing Christmas stuff, wrapping presents. I had been out at a dinner doing some Christmas shopping. I come home. I'd been home probably 30 minutes, and I get a knock at the door, and it was the sheriff from the neighboring county, 2 of my chiefs, and 2 guys from Gilbert PD. And I opened the door and I knew something wasn't right. And one of my chiefs who's known my kids forever, he just looked at me and he just said, Cooper and the baby are dead.
Man.
In an instant, our lives changed. I lost my 22-year-old son, my 11-month-old granddaughter, and my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. I'll tell you, I wasn't interested in doing anything. I didn't want to run for Senate. I didn't want to run for sheriff. I didn't want to get out of bed, frankly.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about those things that in life that I teach, like you have to surrender the outcome. You can't, like I couldn't control what happened. So now it was a matter of what was my attitude going to be and what kind of work was I going to put in? What kind of uncomfortable work was I willing to do? And my wife and I, after about 3-4 weeks of losing him, we just looked at each other one day and we just had this overwhelming feeling of this is what we're supposed to do. We didn't know if we'd win, but I didn't feel like that was what the purpose was. The purpose was, we said, my wife and I said, we're going to go out and we're going to show people that you can run for office, that you can be an honorable man or woman, that you don't have to be hateful, that you can talk about your qualifications and the things that your experience and what you bring to the table, and that this country is worth saving, and you can motivate people. And that's what we did. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get to as many people as I needed to win the primary. And I ran against a formidable person who had a lot of name recognition, didn't have the experience, but had a lot of name recognition. And ultimately, I didn't win the race, but I can tell you unequivocally, I never once shied away from my belief in God and my willingness to speak about God in public and the importance that righteousness and goodness plays in America. I never once shied away from my feelings of needing less government and more freedom. I never once shied away from any of the things that, I'm pro-life. I never once compromised any one of my values or principles to win an election.
Yeah.
And I think what it did is it showed people there's still good people out there and this country's worth fighting for. And that we have a history of courageous heroes who are willing to stand up and say, not on my watch.
Yeah. Man, that's wild. Wild that, you just never know. Just like you said, you can't control the outcome. You just don't know what life is going to bring you and the reasons behind that.
You don't. And one thing losing our kids taught us is there is no guarantee for tomorrow. And there is the only thing you take with you in this life is what you do. I have taken countless dead people out of their homes. They don't even leave with their wallet. We take that out of their pocket for identification purposes. So whatever you think you're amassing in life, your home, your money, whatever it is, you take none of that with you. The only thing you take with you is what you did and who you were and what kind of honor you had and what your principles and values were. That's it. Everything else stays here on this earth.
Everything else will rust and moths will destroy it all. And we spend countless hours trying to find more things for the barn. It's wild. Well, Mark, we are out of time. I think we could go for hours and hours, but I do appreciate your wisdom and insight and for motivating and encouraging us. That was super impactful for me and I'm sure all the listeners as well. And thank you for what you're doing.
I appreciate it. I'm going to share one quote with you.
You bet.
Because I know you're about staying dangerous, mindset. My favorite book, if you're about mindset, is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It's a short book, but it will dial your mindset in. But the last paragraph is a paragraph that I always share. And I think it is so applicable to where we're at in this world today. And it says, keep your hand firmly upon the helm of thought. In the bark of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace be still. We all have a commanding master inside of us, above and beyond God and Jesus Christ. We have a commanding master inside of us. You need to wake him or her up, and you need to get him up to the helm of the ship to navigate these difficult waters. but we will get through it. We will restore freedom. And I'm sorry for the dog. The dog decided to chime in. This country is worth saving. There is nowhere else to go find freedom. If we lose it here, it's gone. And we have a responsibility as Americans to fight for it, to preserve it, just as our founding fathers did. So my hope and prayer is that God grant us all the same faith and strength and courage exhibited by those patriots of old who pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their honor that we might be free.
Amen. Man. Yeah, we got to wake them up inside of us. Thank you.
Get them up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And it's been I know we had to cancel the other day, so thanks for your patience with me too. So it's an honor being on the show today.
What a powerful conversation with Mark. I hope you guys enjoyed that one as much as I did. There is a lot to unpack in that one. And remember, each and every episode, we are looking for the golden nugget. The golden nugget, hands down, on this episode was at the end. He started talking about leading your own life, and he let us know about 78-year-old Whitmore. Whitmore was shot through the face by a .69 caliber bullet. It knocked him down, and he was bayoneted 13 times. He was later found by colonial forces trying to load his musket to resume the fight. That was an amazing, crazy story that he connected to how we have to be fighting for what we believe in at all times, regardless of our age. What a great conversation with Mark. If you want to learn more about him, check him out on Instagram at Mark Lamb. And also make sure you're checking out the Mountain Tough Podcast episodes on YouTube. You can find us there at Mountain Tough Fitness Lab. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Mountain Tough Podcast. We'll see you next week.